Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Global Games. We are ready for match 3 of the day, and it's going to be Turkey versus Vietnam. It's going to be one really interesting scene. We've not really seen too much from either of these countries in terms of Hearthstone so far, Sol.
No, it's definitely one of the biggest prospects in terms of just learning about players and learning about cultures of their countries as well as we go along, because, as I mentioned, this is a big part of what Hearthstone Global Games is about. Much like HCT made some stars in the forms of, Dr. Hippie, Pavel himself turning out to be the world champion at the end of the year. These players didn't really get high-profile invites. They didn't have a big stream, a big organization backing them before HCT went to this huge open format. Now they're, household names in the Hearthstone scene. Now HGG is a similar opportunity for just countries as a whole to really just burgeon their scene locally, because a big performance by a country in this tournament can suddenly, in your home nation itself, bring more players out to fireside gatherings, make more people want to get involved, grow the scene as a whole in these locations. And Turkey, to start with, do have the player with perhaps the best name in the tournament.
Stapit Blizz.
Yeah.
Is a fantastic name. ThunderUp is the player I know the most out of all these. He's quite a prominent ladder player. As long as that's the same guy, but I'm pretty sure it is. There's a guy called ThunderUp. He gets a very high legend quite regularly on the old ladder. And then we look at Vietnam as well. Nilo is the one of the better well-known players as well, with a lot of good tournament performances in the past.
And Chani, Iki, and ZGG Leoz making up that list. But as you mentioned, ThunderUp, very strong ladder player in his own right. You could say that he thunders up the ladder on a regular basis, but you shouldn't, because that would be a terrible joke that no self-respecting person would make while looking at camera.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so you got all the information you need to know about Sol there, but we can see the information about the format. Is going to be, as we mentioned earlier, in case you weren't there, best of 5 between these teams, each player on the team effectively being one deck and needing to get 1 win for the team to make it up to 3 total, and then the first team to 3 will take the series. We see it's going to be Roll versus Iki first, 2 Druids, Paladin and Hunter. Both players will be only choosing one of their own classes to play, and that's going to be a best of 1, effectively. So more Hunter, hopefully. That's all I'm hoping for.
Yeah, and the matchups happen as you see them there down the list. Left player playing right player. That happens in a random order, essentially. The teams pick their order, but they don't know who they're going to come up against on the other side, which essentially randomizes it. Then they get the information that we see here, which is which classes are being played by which players, and they get to pick which of their 2 decks they want to play. Roll with that information has chosen to go with Paladin. Iki, on the other hand, is fulfilling Raven's every hope and dream and going with the Hunter.
Yeah, and in terms of pick order, though, the only thing that isn't as random is who you choose to be 4th.
Correct.
Because the 4th player might not have to play. If your team wins or loses 3-0, then the 4th player doesn't play. And then there's also the ace player who will play again if required. Like we saw in the last series, if it goes to 2-2, there is 1 more game. See the players getting ready, though. Roll there from Turkey, and Iki in Vietnam. Looks like he's got a couple of his teammates with him as well, or at least other people. I'm not sure if that's like potential like LAN cafe.
It looks that way, yeah.
Or just an office. They just have a gaming house maybe in
their
office.
That many gaming chairs in one location seems to suspect that it's, not just somebody's apartment. But
they just like gaming chairs. I mean, why not?
It's possible. But yeah, Turkey and Vietnam, as I said, not countries that have a lot of experience with culturally either. I've traveled a lot, but never been able to visit either Vietnam or Turkey. Although Vietnam is a place that I have looked at ever since I saw a documentary on it, and it's. I think like the perception of Vietnam is that it's a very, it's a kind of crowded city-based kind of place, but there's actually these incredible like forests and greenery, lakes and vistas that you can go to and experience if you actually get out into the countryside. It looks like a phenomenally beautiful country.
I've got a friend over there right now, and all I see is pictures that make me jealous that
there you go.
Also
there you go.
Definitely somewhere to check out, but Iki's co-founder and player of team Vietnamese-based Hearthstone team Smoking Falcons. The only way that team name would be better if it was Smoking Ravens. but I'll take Falcons as a strong second pick. I like it.
Well, this suddenly makes sense. Iki is the chief organizer for a lot of local gatherings and Hearthstone tournaments in Vietnam. So yeah, that seems to bring it all together that they are playing in some kind of LAN location. Roll, on the other hand, though, the highest point earner in Turkey throughout 2016. 47 points is nothing to be sniffed at
all. Not at all, and neither are Kebabs, since his last interesting fact was Roll loves kebabs. Everyone loves kebabs.
I think they are something to be sniffed at, aren't they? that feeling...
Not in that aspect. You're taking me literally.
That feeling after you just walk out of a bar at 2 a.m. after having one too many orange juices and just that smell of kebab just makes you incredibly hungry.
Yeah, and it always gets the job done. You normally wake up halfway through the night, half-eaten kebab on the side, and then finish it off.
We're revealing an awful lot about our lifestyle right now, Raven.
Yeah, these could be like UK facts as well.
Yeah,
Not sure how
true.
relevant this is across other countries, but we're basically giving you the average UK night out here.
Yes. It should be clarified that a kebab in every other country is very different to a kebab in the UK.
Yeah. But most importantly, we are getting to the first game. It's going to be Roll versus Icky, Paladin versus Hunter, and no surprise at all at this point, Murloc opener.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's happened fairly consistently so far. As I mentioned, there has been a lot of variation in the Paladin lists that have been played in the early days of this new format. We've seen Elementals, we've seen hand buffs, we've seen hand buff Elementals, we've seen N'Zoth, we've seen Control, mid-range, Murlocs in and out of all those archetypes as well. But as the dust is beginning to settle, everyone is gravitating more or less with 1, 2, maybe 3 cards different, kind of gravitating towards this same list.
Yeah, crazy day when we can say a Murloc Paladin is one of the top decks in any given meta. Going to look like a hold for a lot of these cards. True Silver Champion being held as well. It's going to be nice to clear up a lot of the early to mid-game Hunter threats very cleanly.
Yes, and Hydrologist into Rockpool Hunter can potentially be a lot of tempo early. Interestingly, if Fiery Bat isn't played on turn 1 for Hunter going first, it's actually hard for them to really generate a lot of power early on, which makes plays like Hydrologist into Rockpool Hunter have a good chance of sticking. Obviously, Crackling Razormaw can mess with that significantly, but you know that's a card that's probably going to punish you as Paladin no matter what you do, because you have no way as Paladin to remove a 1-mana card from the board going second. The cards just don't really exist that you play in a Paladin deck. The only way you're doing it is if you're going first and you get on the board with Lost in the Jungle.
Oh, you play Light's Justice for some reason. But
the card is there in the collection, but in an actual playable Paladin deck, they generally have no way to interact with early board state.
Yeah, and also as well, if you're going to try and play around Razormaw often, it's going to be very difficult to do so, because Hunter is currently excelling at sticking something to the board, and then suddenly even just Poisonous is going to be a huge problem. So I imagine we are going to see the Razormaw here. The runt just gets cleaned up very efficiently. And, let's see what the options are. +3 attack, +1/1. I mean, both of those just deal with the Hydrologist.
He has to trade, right? He knows it was coined out, so he knows how big a punish Rockpool Hunter is. Like, even if he takes 3 attack and hits face, then the 2/2 getting buffed to a 3/3 potentially, then there's no punish. But it still seems like an ambitious line to go down.
I like being ambitious.
I do too.
So does Team Vietnam.
I like it. This is great identification. The fact that the 3 attack was available. If he took +1/+1, then the buff would be a punish to this play, but taking +3 attack means that even the buff making this a 3/3, it cannot pick up a value trade, and it's just going to have to trade off one of these minions anyway. Why trade when your opponent is going to do it for you?
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy, isn't it? That play actually just gained you so much extra damage, and also so much board control, because Icky does have a follow-up with Rat Pack next turn as well, and then to potentially, even though there's no foreplay, you can actually Rat Pack into Ravasaur Runt, depending on the minion.
It's happened again! Raven, when did you turn into such a child?
Look, no one can see the way you're looking at me, that's the problem. Turn 4. Play.
Yes.
There you go.
Rat Pack hitting the board, although Animal Companion pickup might be good enough to change that. If he can get a Misha here, he can just kind of push another 4 pretty much uncontested, and that's a ton of aggression being pushed through. So Vietnam definitely getting the better of the early game here, but you would expect them to. As we've mentioned before, this Paladin deck does have a nice sprinkling of these early game Murlocs that can grip the board, but not enough to do it consistently game in, game out. And that's how Hunter decks are built, to do it consistently game in, game out.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially against Hunter, right? You know, it's going to be a problem. And you just see the power of Razormaw, not Ravasaur. You know, Razormaw getting that adapt is absolutely huge. You know, having that available on 2, you have a minion to play on 1. Is exactly how the Hunter would like to open up every single game if possible. If they could have one thing, they would want 1 drop into Razormaw.
I do like the point you made about, you know, if you play around it super aggressively in the early game and deny them doing it, then they're just going to hit it later on a Rat Pack, like, plus attack on a Rat Pack, Wind Fury, a high main, all these kind of...
like, okay.
At some point, you're going to get Razor Mauled. It kind of reminds me a lot of Houndmaster in that regard, where, yes, absolutely, when you're playing against Hunter, you should do everything you can to stop them Houndmastering on curve on turn 4, because that's huge. But I've seen players just continue to super aggressively play around Houndmaster, turn 5, turn 6, so on and so forth. At some point, mate, you're getting Houndmastered. You just can't stop it happening for the whole game.
Very similar as well to the Razor is that, like, stuff in Hunter is cheap enough that once you get to turn 5 or 6, they can do 2 things in a turn, so they'll probably just get it off anyway. So see what happens now. The Macaw returning to the original attack with the Aldor Peacekeeper. So it's going to go for the Animal Comp as opposed to the Runt. Runt doesn't do too much, whereas if this is Leok, I mean, Huff is good as well. Okay.
Said everyone ever.
So you hover into the 3-3. What do you trade, a rat or a bird into the 2-1?
Raven asking the hard-hitting questions that matter.
Well, this is actually correct, because now you keep 1 of each on the board, as opposed to having 2 rats.
Excellent.
So this is actually the correct play, so good job to Icky. He knows how to Hunter. And most importantly, as we said, there are 2 minions on the board. One of these needs to die, or Nesting Rock is going to look very good next turn.
And that is not going to happen. I mean, Nesting Rock is not a card that I'm also, not super concerned about playing around in situations like this, because it only gains Taunt. It's a 4-7 either way. The stats are still there regardless, and there's a good chance that when it comes down on turn 5, it's the biggest minion in play anyways. It's kind of the one you want to deal with. There are annoying situations like this where it prevents you from dealing with the small minions, like the Vilefin Inquisitor just picking up these nice trades would be great. But, I mean, really, is he going to True Silver a 1-1 that turn to play around Nesting Rock? No way. No way.
Maybe. Consecrate kind of helps out, but I imagine this is going to be a True Silver turn, and Redemption doesn't really line anything up too good. Maybe we see the Getaway Kodo play with the Hydrologist. That's how confident I always am of getting Getaway Kodo for an off.
I was looking at the hand, I was like, he took Redemption. Why are we talking about... I was like, I see. Yes.
I mean, a second Stonehill is always nice, but the problem is it just too slow? When there's a rock on the board, there's 2 1-1s. We can see that there's high main, but just the fact Hunter has 4 cards means something's going on next turn that's going to be strong, right?
Your confidence was misplaced, sir.
It would have been, if I did it, would have been fine.
Oh, I see. Yeah. The ultimate out. Yeah, I agree this play is very slow, but what's the fast play in your hand right now? You don't really have one, right? True Silver is a very fast card, but it doesn't do anything on this board. You can't chew through the Nesting Rock.
Actually, because Equality Conk is available next turn, this becomes way better, actually. Yeah. You can just Equality Conk next turn, if he needs to, of course. If not, can just equip True Silver. But,
well, I'm sticking with what was the alternative. Really, what was the other play he had this turn?
True Silver the Rock. Get him!
I guess.
I mean, you got to get through it at some point.
It's true.
But as I said, with Equality and Consecrate, it becomes much easier to do. Tracking picked up for Icky. I've been seeing a few players play Tracking. I'm just not convinced by that card, personally. But I guess with you leaning towards more 1-drops, then tracking those out potentially and getting a high drop is very important. Very similar to the way play like Tolvair Ward and
exactly.
Out the
that was the point I wanted to make, because my experience with building Hunter is that you want to play a lot of 1-drops to be able to consistently get on the board first against the aggressive decks. Then you also want to play a lot of beefy minions so that you can outlast Quest Warrior, for example. So that building your deck, ticking both of those boxes, leaves you with kind of quite often this weird gap in your mid-game turns where you don't consistently have enough cards. You just have 1-drops or high mains kind of things in your hand. So you need something to bridge that gap. And the 2 cards that can do that effectively are Tolvair Warden to increase the density of your deck and then allow you to hit things like high main more consistently. Or you just play Tracking, and then whenever you hit one of those awkward turns, you just fill it with a Tracking into a play that you can make.
We are going to see the Equality come down now. This is going to be a pretty clean. As with the minions on board, it means it's going to be able to clear everything, even the second half of High Maid. But this whole turn was used to clear the board, and now Icky can continue to jump onto it, can actually play out the Animal Comp Firebat and the Runt, and then have Tracking next turn if he really wants. The only problem is, Tracking this turn to fill out the curve.
You do it, right?
Why not, right?
The Bat Companion Runt play only takes 6 anyway, so you might as well just take up the 1. And I think playing 3 Beasts this turn and having just seen your opponent commit their board clear That's a pretty easy Houndmaster pick.
Yeah, I like it. Leok, not too bad. Doesn't look amazing like on its own, but with Houndmaster available, it's quite the formidable beast. 2 1-1s, I guess.
2/1/1s is something. Stealth is actually reasonable. Is there any world where that stealth allows you to hit a Houndmaster that you otherwise wouldn't? Probably not, right? Yeah. Realistically, against Paladin turn 7.
I like the 2 1-1s because Leok buffs the 1-1s regardless of them being beasts.
Yes.
Regardless of them not being beasts, should I say.
Sure.
So you can potentially get value if Leok continues to live.
Pyro picked up, though, 2 1-mana secrets in hand that can start to do some clearing work on this board state, but he's one short of being able to break through that Ravasaur run and kill the plants, and since this isn't Priest, he doesn't have a nice way to give his Pyro the extra health he'd need to do that anyway.
Yeah, I wonder if you actually just hit the Ravasaur run this turn, then Pyro Noble Sack to clear off everything but the Leok.
It's possible. I think like the line here from Roll is that he's True Silvering the Leok to reduce the most damage here, and then next turn he's just looking to True Silver the run and then do it that way. Because he can even like if he's setting up for Pyro Spike Ridge Steed is I think what he's doing. So next turn, even if there's a big minion played that he can't clear, he can hit the 2/2 with the True Silver, Pyro Spike Ridge Steed to clear the board, and then there'd be just that one minion being contested.
Yeah, there's even a chance he's just setting up for Drake.
Also
just
possible,
hits him to the run, plays Drake next turn, has a 4/8 on board. But he's got a lot of options though, and I think that's the important part here. The health differences are significant though. Icky on 28, not really been touched too much, but Roll is edging towards the point of being in the scary parts of health when you're against Hunter.
Yes.
And we've seen no heal so far. I imagine there's at least Ragnaros Lightlord in the deck. And hopefully one Forbidden Heal. I think one is needed. Oh, unless he might play the horse.
Ivory Knight.
Yeah. He might play Ivory Knight actually instead of a Forbidden Healing. But I don't know, like this is definitely looking rough now with Bow as well. This might just be too much to handle here.
It might be. There's a True Silver for a little bit of healing, and there are big taunts available, both the Drake and the Spike Ridge Steed, the two options that are a sort of quasi-board clear as well as a huge taunt this turn. Sunkeeper Terran pickup now is very relevant as well, and just looking at the Drake versus Pyro thing, I kind of like the Pyro, because you then have this huge health Pyro that you can use over time with the secrets. The difference now is that the line of play of True Silver over 2 turns plus AoE kind of got shut down by this Houndmaster anyway. But in the world where that plan worked out, I think I just liked the Pyro because of that opportunity to just continue board nuking the turn after and the turn after with the 1-mana secrets and the huge health pool on your Pyro.
Yeah. So looking at whether maybe even Hero Power into Tarim would be any good. Just so you can kill off the bat. You have 2 3/3s against your 3/7 and 3/3. But I don't think it does too much versus the Pyro potential.
So if Drake adds power to the board, leaves the power on the board the same as the Pyro Steed play. He is going to go for Pyro Steed, so I think his thinking is similar to mine. There's also the addition that like Primordial Drake is just a much more universally strong card. You can just slam it in a lot of situations.
Well, at worst, it's a 4/8 taunt.
Exactly.
Like, at worst.
Right. Whereas Spike Ridge Steed actually requires a target for you to land it on. So I think, this is a lot more taunt in play for a similar amount of mana, and you can follow this up later now with Primordial Drake, which is just a universally stronger card.
Yeah, it's going to actually use the kill command here on the Wild Pyro. Guess this is reasonably safe. I wondered whether he just kill command here or not. Just get him in a couple of turns. He probably doesn't die. That's going to be wary of heal though. That's the problem.
Yeah, there's Rag Lightlord and there's Rag Lightlord plus another healing card at least usually in this deck. Whether that healing card is Forbidden Healing or Ivory Knight, as you talked about, is somewhat up for debate, but Rag Lightlord is almost ever present. There is Stonehill Defender cards that can get picked up as well that turn into Rag Lightlord. There are a lot of ways for the Paladin to heal. Icky, perhaps rightly scared of the healing being there, but my question is, does this play win the game too often? So you have a 2-2 on the board, right? So this play, by not kill command hero powering face, your play is playing around your opponent having healing.
Yeah.
Significant amounts of healing as
But
well.
you're also not putting yourself in range of any draws, right?
Right. But if your opponent has that healing and you have a 2-2 on the board and you've killed his taunt, aren't you losing to that same healing anyway?
Sure. That's true.
I don't really see the upside of the play that was made by Vietnam that turn.
Also, as well, disclaimer, Stonehill cannot get you Ragnaros.
Oh, what am I thinking of? Oh, I'm thinking of Servant of Kalamos.
Oh,
I've made that exact mistake.
Just
but
before.
I've made that exact mistake, but in reverse last week as well.
Really?
Part of my brain just keeps mixing those two up. I don't know what it is.
Just I can imagine.
Thank
chat.
I love that you're always here for me, Raven.
Unfortunately so, yes.
Yeah.
Always am, regardless of however mean you may be sometimes. But multiple one-drops, this is what we were saying earlier. Like, imagine if Tolve was played beforehand. Obviously, the game would look different, but you're much less likely to draw into these and draw into the bigger guys in the deck. This is pretty much how you lose with Hunter a lot of the time. I wonder if the risk was just worth it of the kill command. If the Pyro was just a taunt, cool, I'm down. But because it was the Spike Ridge T to summon the 2/6 as well, it's like, that is a lot of damage to try and plow through.
It really is.
No cards in hand.
And because it's, the part that bothers me is that he didn't develop board presence behind it. He just had a 2-2. It's not like the Hyena was growing into a game-winning threat. It was just a 2-2.
If the plants were actually beasts, right?
Right,
like,
sure.
Suddenly you're like, okay.
Right. But like kill command hero power face, you win the game over 2 turns if there's no healing. You put them down to 3, right, from the position that they were in.
And you still have draws, your second kill command, for example,
right,
as well.
Exactly.
Get you a sneaky out.
So in that position, you're losing to large amounts of healing like Rag Lightlord or like Forbidden Healing. But if you're just developing a 2-2 on the board and allowing them to play into it, I just feel like you lose to that same healing anyway, so your play just hasn't really improved on the situation.
Yeah, especially when the healing is either a full Forbidden Healing, which is 20 health, or it's Ragnaros, which is 8 healing plus an 8/8.
Yep.
So...
And it's pretty much, I mean, it's happened in exact clarity. We've seen the absolute minimum amount of healing that could be classified as healing, just the second True Silver from Turkey's deck.
Off.
Yeah, and he just hasn't got there. He went with the line where he played around healing by just not committing to face, and he just still hasn't got there because he didn't commit enough board pressure behind it.
It's one of the issues with now the lack of quick shot in Hunter.
Yes.
Means, I think, what's funny is there's one argument where you could be like, oh, because there's no quick shot, there's no point trying to be aggressive. But I actually think because there's no quick shot, you have to take the opportunities where you can get them and go hard.
Yeah,
because you don't have 3 draws instead of 1, to buff the extra damage. I think you actually have to go all in a lot of the time and rely on that hero power. But that was a very, very close game. But Turkey is going to take it. And it's a good start for them, going 1-0 up. Paladin versus Hunter, as you said, was very, very close. But unfortunately, Hunter didn't win.
Such
can't win them all.
Feeling.
Can't win them all.
No, that Paladin deck continues to impress me though.
It's crazy, isn't it?
The more I see it perform, I played it a little bit myself. Not too much. I was messing around more with Paladin when I was testing Paladin in the early days. The first couple of days when Kalento was messing around with the hand buff stuff, and people were still trying elementals, which is why I've got elementals on my brain apparently. But yeah, I've played maybe 20-25 games with it, not a great amount, but it has impressed me in that small sample size.
Well, what's funny is you can see how powerful it is just from the games we've cast today, and it's not yet done the Murloc thing to someone, not properly. You know what I mean? We've not seen the bigger dat board, but we're going to move on to game 2 of Turkey versus Vietnam, and it's Stapit Blaze versus Leoz. I'm going to... ZGG feels like a prefix for his name, so... Leoz is going to be...
Leoz, all right,
yeah,
I can get down with that.
Warrior versus Rogue, so not a Warrior Mirror. And now this one's going to be the Pirate one, isn't it? Rogue versus Pirate Warrior, let's go. Yeah, we can see Turkey there. Wow, they drive really fast.
Excellent observation.
No speed limits in Turkey.
Yeah, apparently not.
Oh, wow.
That is beautiful.
Okay, that's all of Turkey.
All right, put Turkey on the list as well. I want to go there as well. I did actually get invited to Istanbul for a yo-yo event at one point, but I just couldn't make it.
In Vietnam.
Okay, Hearthstone Global Games has now turned into Ravens traffic report, apparently. So.
Yeah, and weather reports as well. It looks to be some kind of storm going on in the what look to be jungles of Vietnam.
Vietnamese jungle, yeah.
It does look awesome, though. We can see the players getting ready again. No surprise that Leoz is in the same location. It's kind of cool to see Vietnam. There seems to be a central esports location. And for me as well, like my sort of background was in running local events, so it's kind
That's
of
true, yeah.
it's really nice actually to just see like someone is running some kind of area to run firesides, to run tournaments, just hangout areas in general for gaming nerds to get together, because back in my day these did not exist as much, at least.
You're still a youngling to me, Raven. I don't know where this
Well,
back
it's like
in my
2
day
years
stuff
or something, right? Doesn't count.
All right. But Rogue versus Warrior coming up, and this is going to be very, very polarized based on the archetypes that are coming out. If it's Quest Rogue and Quest Warrior, massive favorite to the Quest Rogue. If it's Pirate Warrior and pretty much any Rogue.
And Rogue.
Yeah, massive favorite to the Pirate Warrior. There are things that Quest Rogue can do to improve their win rate against Pirate Warrior. Glacial Shards are pretty much standard these days. They help. But then Bilefin, Tidehunters, Shield Bearers, those kind of cards being played as well that can eventually be 5/5 taunts are a big deal.
Yeah, and as you can see now, you know, Stapit Blaze has 8 top 100 legend finishes. That is for those of you who don't know too much, that is a large amount. And it just shows that there are, you know, great players in places we're not used to seeing represent Hearthstone, so that's kind of awesome. And he wants Blizzard to stop being so darn cool. I'm sure that's exactly exactly what the name means. GG Leoz actually worked for Gosu Gamers.
Yes.
So I actually wasn't fully aware of that, so you learn something new every day.
Yeah, no surprise that the newly minted Blizzard employee, TJ Sanders, has been in control of these facts. So his words, not ours. But Blizzard, we love you too. But of course, stop
being awesome.
Don't stop being awesome. That's it. Raven sees the lines. No surprise to me though that Stop It Blizz has 8 top 100 finishes, because if you have a name like that, you will try everything you can to make sure that Blizzard themselves have to publish it on their website when they post their top 100 finishes. But the main reason why he keeps getting there is that he's a very, very accomplished player. So.
Yeah, and again, you know, for those players who you know maybe don't hit that kind of legend rank every month, that actually finishing top 100 is very, very difficult.
Yes.
Like you can hit it, early in the month or whatever, great.
Right.
You can, float around like a couple of hundred and stuff. Finishing on top 100 is incredibly difficult, and huge respect to someone who's done that 8 times.
Yeah, if you play a few hours a day every day, you're gonna get yourself into top 100 at some point. If you're a good player, if you're a high legend quality player, you just play a few hours a day. At some point, you're gonna sneak into top 100, possibly even higher. Towards the end of the month, it's a massive, just absolute snake pit, shark-infested waters. Everyone cutthroating each other, queue sniping, counter queuing, everything you can possibly imagine. People trying to get there on the last day. So if you get that done, then you are a very, very accomplished Hearthstone player. Just to do it once, let alone 8 times.
Great description. All I imagine is sharks wielding bags of snakes to throw at people. That's how brutal it is in top 100 legend. But this is going to be brutal as well, because Leoz is playing Pirate Warrior against the Rogue from Stapit Blaze, and it looks like it's actually a Miracle Rogue from him, so he gains my respect, as opposed to if he was playing Quest Rogue, and then we can be friends, mate.
+1 Raven point.
Yeah, you're now on 1. But yeah, the Pirate Warrior, not off to the fastest start in the world, with an opening of Upgrade, but a lot of the times it just doesn't matter against Rogue. They just have damage permanence, effectively, to any damage they do to the Rogue is never going to get healed, unless, I guess, hallucination into shield block. But other than that,
yeah, hallucinations, swashbucklers. There's a decent chunk of defensive cards that you can get.
But realistically, the damage you do is normally the damage the Rogue is going to continue to take. And Pirate Warrior is a highly aggressive deck, although we've not seen anything too crazy out yet from Leoz. I believe the #1 win rate card is in his hand, and just been hit the board. South Sea Captain.
South Sea Captain indeed. But speaking of high win rate cards, Edwin Van Cleef, and I was just about to say, a hallucination draw this turn is absolutely nuts. That is hallucination, backstab, coin Edwin Van Cleef this turn. You can even get yourself an inner rage off this hallucination for a board clear and another +2/+2. That's the wrong rage.
That is the wrong rage. We want the player called Rage.
He's always the right rage.
He's always the right kind of rage. None of these options are fantastic. Gorehal might just be a finisher. 'Cause
Sure.
a lot. I mean, maybe you can take Battle Rage because you're expecting Van Cleef to not die, right? He's going to take damage but not die, more than likely. So Battle Rage is probably the more consistent play. Gorehowl sometimes can be just good as 7 damage to face late on, but
The Brotherhood shall come.
it's going to be Battle Rage.
Yeah,
I'm not planning to get to turns.
myself and Leoz do not share a language, but I think what he just said was coin Van Cleef. That's unfortunate, as he was
I think
talking
you
to his
do
team.
share a language because he speaks 3 or 4 different languages.
Ah,
So
there's a very good chance
I
there.
think it's Vietnamese, Korean, English. I think there was one more.
Interesting.
So yeah. Okay, so Bloodsail Raider and South Sea Deckhand is an option. It's kind of unfortunate because Dread Corsair is a nice speed bump, but that's his whole turn, and I don't think that's fast enough. Can we set up for... Oh, he's going for the clearance. Okay,
Clearing
he's
it,
just going to
yeah.
clear it off. This is reasonable. You just take 8 damage, call it a day, because even if you put Raider down, Corsair, sorry, then that could just get cleaned up, and then you've got to do it again, you know, and again. So this clear is actually really nice for Leoz. Still took 8 to the face, but Pirate Warrior not too often worried about its own health total.
Yeah, I've seen this happen and had this happen to me on a scary number of occasions now, where I make an 8-8, even a 10-10 Van Cleef early as Rogue. The Pirate Warriors, or the good Pirate Warriors, will generally just trade into it and then start again, because if you try and race it, there's that 10 damage on board that's pushing you, but you also make more cards in your opponent's deck good against you, right? Because if they have a 10-10 stuck on the board and you try to race it, if their hand is backstabs and eviscerates and fan of knives,
Yeah, they could just use
they
one
use
thing.
those to clear your minions and they're pushing damage. Whereas if they have nothing on board and they spend their whole turn clearing your minions, great, you just play more minions next turn. You equip Arcanite Reaper, you push damage. So I think this is a situation I've actually seen Pirate Warrior win from a lot more than you might expect. Obviously, it's a fantastic play for the Rogue, and it increases their win rate exponentially to have that big Van Cleef opening. But I don't think it's checkmate as long as you generally do trade into it as the Pirate Warrior.
Yeah, and we're going to see a bit of a big play here from Turkey. It's going to be the coin Gadgetzan into Backstab trade. Backstab just going to try and draw into something great. Second Gadgetzan, not great at all. But the onus is now on Leoz from Vietnam to deal with this Gadgetzan, because even as a deck as aggressive as this Warrior, I believe you do not want to give your opponent a way out when they only have 2 cards in hand.
Right. The Abyss pickup would have been pretty nice. Stubbit Blizz would have had Battle Rage live to at least draw the 1 card off the injured Valera itself, so it would have drawn 2 with the Auctioneer on the board. Eviscerate would have removed perhaps the Captain or the Bloodsail Raider, whatever got committed to board, so he would have been off to the races if he hadn't have traded. And yes, Leoz is trading much, much more than he would maybe like to at this point, but Pirate Warrior can do this. If he's able to stick a board at some point, that translates immediately into a lot of that damage you've already lost, and you're buying yourself so much time by making the trades.
Yeah, I think it's important that he's trading and he has 3 minions still in hand. If he had none, then yeah, okay, we're in a bit of deep water going on here. But he doesn't. He has a lot of minions in hand, all pirates, and now he can actually play. He can go Raider, Cultist, Corsair, which is a very nice turn.
It is. He
Doesn't kill the Gadgetzan, though.
No. There is no way for him to do that with Patches having already been summoned this turn. Patches would have been his 1 out and way to do it. He does miss 1 attack on the Bloodsail Raider, but much more importantly is able to generate all 3 minions in the same turn. So 1 attack down on the Raider to develop a whole new 3-3 on the board seems worth it to me. But now it's party time for Miracle Rogue, for Turkey, and for Stubbit Blizz.
Yeah, going to be Battle Rage for 3 cards. This turn, which is absolutely incredible. Foresight to get the Battle Rage off there. There is Prep, Mimic Pod, Shiv. Sherazin probably not going to be played this turn due to be able to just use more spells, but Eviscerate as well. A second Prep. This is getting mildly ridiculous.
Curious about the sequencing there. I was wondering whether it was worth using more natural mana on the cheaper spells that you're almost certainly going to use this turn, like eviscerating the 3/4, for example.
Yeah, it's going to happen, right?
Right. Because I don't think Mimic Pod necessarily always gets cast that turn, so you might end up pushing through your deck to Fan of Knives, for example, and prepping that for 3 mana instead. These are very small things that come in Miracle Turn sequencing that are not always relevant, and I'm not even convinced that I'm right in that situation, but they're worth thinking about.
Yeah, he can clear this up very easy. Now Arcane Giant now being It's going to be free. Absolutely huge. This huge miracle turn. Second Arcane Giant. And I believe GG Leoz is just going to GG out of this game because that is not something you can race as Pirate Warrior.
No. It's also not something that you can successfully trade into as Pirate Warrior.
First mate, got him.
Excellent. I will hit 1 for 3 this turn and then for 1 the next turn, and we're halfway there.
Wow, what a game. We were kind of joking around that if it's Pirate Warrior versus Rogue full stop, then the game's going to be a stomp, and it kind of was, but not in the way we thought, and the sheer power of those draws was incredible, and the second gadget exam being picked up after the first one was dealt with so cleanly just opened up the game there, and suddenly Turkey are 2-0 ahead versus Vietnam.
There's always that asterisk. When you talk about Rogue versus Pirate Warrior, of course it is massively favored for one of the most aggressive decks in history. But there's always that asterisk, which is unless Edwin Van Cleef.
Unless Rogue thinks.
Yeah, Edwin Van Cleef is the wild card, and it's similar to the days where, Combo Druid was one of the dominant decks. If Force of Nature Savage Raw Combo Druid was one of the dominant decks in the meta, and you used to say, oh yeah, this deck is heavily favored against Combo Druid. Well, if they Wild Growth on 2 and they have combo on 9, you probably still lose.
Yeah, you're probably still going out.
There are just certain things that are so powerful you can't stop them, and for the Rogue there, you saw several of them happening in the same game.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. But we are going to be moving on now to Game 3 of this series, Berserky versus Channy. Berserky on the Warrior, so again, could be Pirate, could be Quest, versus Channy on the Shaman, and I feel like... if it is Quest Warrior, correct me if you've had different experience, but I feel like Shaman's one that can go pretty well versus Quest Warrior. A mixture of the hero power, creating additional token, just to make their die insect hero power quite, not as good later on. Also, they have hexes to just sweep through the high health taunts. They have enough AoE to help with the smaller taunts, and they can actually build up an awkward board, and sometimes Brawl just isn't good enough.
So I was talking to Sho about this. Sho actually spoke to me and said, I was watching the first week of HGG, and you said that you felt that Elemental Shaman was favored against Taunt Warrior. That was something that I got from Ball Control, who climbed to Legend this month with the Elemental Shaman list, has done very, very well from it, pushed on to High Legend since then, and primarily finished his climb by farming Taunt Warriors. But Sho says that Elemental Shaman is massively overrated and that Quest Warrior is favored in that matchup. So
I will note that Ball
swings
Control,
and roundabouts.
Ball Control put Black Knight in his deck as well, which is definitely nice. We'll see more about these players, though. Channy also playing for the Vietnamese-based team, Smoking Falcon. I just want to say Smoking Ravens. I'm going to petition them to change the name. Smoking Falcons, regular participant of Popular Weekly Tournament Gosu Cup, which we know about that one. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it looks like she's doing pretty well. She likes Hunter, so sold.
And again, more kebab love coming out from Berserky. Grilled lamb and hot tomato sauce sounds delicious to me. 28 points in 2016. Not quite as many as some of the people we have seen, but again, nothing to be ashamed of.
Okay, this is going to be a tough one for who's going to be my favorite here. One player likes Hunter, one player was a StarCraft 2 player. So I'm just split straight down the middle here. I think it's going to be a win either way.
Wow, actual unbiased casting from Raven for the first time in history. But yes, Warrior versus Shaman, hotly contested matchup. Of course, there's still the opportunity that this is Pirate Warrior again, and that throws a spanner in the works of everything we're talking about.
Or the Shaman isn't elemental.
Or the Shaman isn't elemental. That's a good point as well. There's actually a list I really, really like, and my mind has gone blank on the guy that I need to give credit to, so I apologize immensely.
Get you later.
But it's a very, very burst-heavy Shaman that's not aggro Shaman in the sense of, build minions, finish with Hammer of Twilight, Lava Burst, Jade Lightning, as we've seen. It's literally just, clear board, stall, and then Doom Hammer you. And just,
just get them.
Yeah, just Doom Hammer, Rock Biter, Lava Burst. And it's actually really effective. It's just playing like double Volcano to be able to clear boards over and over again. I've had a ton of fun playing that, and actually a lot of success as well. I was pushing top 100 Legend playing it at one point. So it actually seems pretty strong to me. Also as well, control, it's actually N'Zoth Shaman is very strong in Wild at the moment. Woo! The Wild alarm kicks off. So those of you that aren't aware, Raven spent 1 month playing Wild and now thinks he knows everything about that format. I do. Yes. But now moving on to... One person on this casting desk has top 10 Wild Legend finishes, and spoilers, it's not Raven.
until the end of this month. So moving on, though, back into this format and this game, Turkey with the Pirate Warrior. So ignore all the control speak.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. And Chani does have the Elemental Shaman by the looks of it with Blaze Collar Hot Spring Guardian available. And even Kazai Blood Mage Thanos is always an interesting pick.
Ooh, bit of Tide Hydra in the Pirate Warrior as well. And I'll go back to Ball Control. If you guys at home don't know who Ball Control is, he's probably the most dominant player in the UK over the last 12 to 18 months. He's a player that we all petitioned to be part of our team, but he didn't quite get the popular vote in terms of some of the more well-known players. But he played this deck a ton in the early days of the expansion. He recommended heavily that his teammate Jombre brought it to the tournament to represent the UK against USA. Jombre then got absolutely stomped by Firebat's Pirate Warrior, and Ball Control tweeted something to the effect of, oh, you know, I was like 80% against Pirate Warrior with this deck. I guess it just wasn't our day. So he feels this deck is very, very effective against both types of warrior, although many people show, and perhaps even Firebat, if he always draws like that, probably disagree with that assessment.
And it's Firebat, so he probably does. But yeah, Better Tide Hydra's in the Pirate Warrior. And what are the reasons for this card versus, you know, whatever it's even cut for? Is there no Leroy, for example?
It costs 5 mana and it has 2 number 8s on it. Those are the reasons for this card.
Do you think it's a good pick?
There are
a lot of lists that don't play it.
I mean, straight up cards on the table, I have not played Pirate Warrior since the expansion came out. So
One of the good guys?
Yeah, and there are more interesting things for me to test and have opinions on these days than the optimal build of Pirate Warrior. So I haven't tested it out too much. I do like it in Aggro Druid, and I do like it in Midrange Hunter. I like it in both of those decks. I just haven't got around to playing it yet in Pirate Warrior.
Okay, so we've got the 2 Hot Spring Guardians available and a Maelstrom Pole. Igneous Elemental, I still don't know what I think about this card in general. Feels very slow, even for Elemental Shaman.
Yeah.
Feels very, very... I mean, it's good in Quest Rogue, guys. But we are talking about Shaman for now, so he's going to go for the Elemental this turn. Interesting. Hot Spring does get cleaned up very easily, but you do still gain pretty much the heal from it as well, so... Definitely a tough one.
It's a brutal clear for the second Blood Cell Cultist, though. Obviously not expecting the Blood Cell Cultist number 2 is Vietnam at this point, having just seen the first one already, but this is already just a ridiculous board state. And, you know, most commonly, Elemental Shamans are fairly weak on terms of Lightning Storms. They just play Maelstrom Portal, and then they have Kalamos as their Lightning Storm. They don't often play more than one natural copy of Lightning Storm in the deck.
Yeah, we did see a couple of players bringing Volcano, though.
That's true.
Being one
that
of
is
them.
true,
And
yeah.
Volcano is a card I actually love. The more I play that card, the more I like it. So there is a chance. But as we said as well, you know, these are countries from around the world playing, and although, you know, the internet is a wonderful thing and you can pretty much watch anyone play at this point and check out tons of decks, some regions do prefer their own styles and prefer their own, you know, versions of the deck list. So there's a chance that we might not see it from the Vietnamese team.
If you like Volcano that much, you should play that Burst Doom.
Okay, you have to give me that list.
It's really strong. By the way, someone tweet at me and let me know that guy's name that I've forgotten, and I will retweet and give credit where due. I hate doing that. The guy's built an awesome deck, and I've just forgotten his name.
I'm just already picturing the responses. Tweet at me and let me know the guy's name I forgot.
Yes.
Raven. I can just see. I'll preemptively make the joke before anyone else does.
But yeah, you haven't lived until you've played Acolyte of Pain into Volcano, cleared your opponent's board, and drawn 3 cards. It's beautiful.
Oh my God.
But yes, Volcano is going to be very much needed here for Vietnam, because this is one of the most impressive Pirate Warrior starts that you can get. Not only are they pushing damage, they have a massive amount of board control from the 3/3 weapon. They also just have a very sticky, high health board state, which is a nightmare for this deck to deal with, especially since most commonly it's been cutting Lightning Storms from the deck.
Yeah, and you know, just even there's multiple options on turn 4 here. There's even Blood Cell Raider armor up if really needed, but Frothing Berserker, Deckhand, Smoke Run Elite, you know, there's all the options here, which is when Pirate Warrior's got multiple options for one turn, you're normally very afraid of that. So yeah, this is all going well, and looks like Berserker has the Better Tide Hydra ready for 5 as well, so going to continue with more options going forward. I do think I just like the Cork run to the Hot Spring.
You conquer on face, right? You trade the weapon and a 1/1.
Oh,
and
sure.
just smash face, yeah.
You know what? I actually just forgot the weapon was 3. I thought it was
Yeah,
2.
the weapon got real big, real fast.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're completely right. This is just way better. You get rid of your one health minions, or at least one of them, make you much less susceptible to the lack of AoE we were talking about. And this is just grim for Team Vietnam here. We could be on the verge of a 3-0 sweep for Turkey here today.
Yep. Hot Spring and Flame Tongue is about as good as it gets this turn, though. Allows this Flame Elemental to do something relevant, which Turkey didn't have to let it do. They could have chosen to trade into it there to play around this exact scenario, but I think Berserky and Turkey in general are just... sorry, I had to make that right at some point. It just felt too nice to say it. I apologize. But yeah, I think he just feels so comfortable that he's just happy pushing damage. Even the worst case scenario, which this basically was, outside of Lightning Storm, this is about the worst thing that could have happened to him this turn, and it's still just fine.
Yep. Yeah, it's looking pretty grim. So even away, it looks like this game's going to be over really soon. So this might be a little bit too much for Vietnam to handle here.
Not looking too rosy. Maelstrom Portal is doing nothing, even with the spell damage. It's just going to send that Frothing Berserker spiraling out of control. Fire Ellie not enough to get there either. 1 turn off Blaze Caller, despite playing the Elemental next turn. Fire Ellie takes the 5 power off the board, but adds 1 to the Frothing, so there would still be 6, 9, 12, 15 damage in play, comfortably enough to push through lethal. Vietnam are looking in trouble. Maybe 2 taunts from the Totem and the Maelstrom Portal. Is that ever good enough? No, because the Frothing just grows from the taunts being traded into anyway.
The Frothing just gets them.
I'm not seeing it.
And the Frothing grows significantly from the Maelstrom Portal as well. That's not going to be it. And Vietnam are out. You can see the disappointment there on Chandy's face. You can't really argue with that. Getting 0-3 in your first match is definitely rough, but Turkey... Great, super solid performance actually. Like they're not messing around. Even the Miracle Rogue turn was, a good identification of, exactly when you need to try and go off and just about hold on.
Yeah.
And organize that long Miracle turn really well. Pirate Warrior just got him, so you can't really argue with that, I guess. Yeah. And just Pirate Warrior just counter Elemental Shame, and it feels like it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We have our 2-game sample size. I was talking about Ball Control had a much bigger sample size, but was probably also playing on average against a lower quality of player. Just, on ladder, the average player at rank 5 to Legend is probably weaker than the average player in this tournament, so who knows how that affects things, but Pirate Warrior has looked very comfortable in those matchups so far, but they have both the Pirate Warrior wins have been the absolute nuts.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, Turkey winning 3-0 means a player from each team doesn't even get to play, and the ThunderUp and Neilio, so that's kind of interesting that both those players, what you'd off the top of your head just say the 2 stronger players on the team, don't even have to play, but they were in the scary spot of saying, well, if we really need this win to survive, we're going to pull it out of the bag. So congratulations to Turkey. That's kind of cool. I genuinely didn't know who would win this one. I thought Vietnam would be slightly favored, but yeah, Turkey looking strong.
Yeah, there's a couple of groups in general where there's a lot of these kind of matchups where I'm just excited just to watch, learn about the players' playstyles, their deck preferences, read those facts, see the shots of the countries, all this kind of stuff, and just experience the environment and the culture. And this group was very much one of them. This matchup was very much one of them. I was fascinated to see who was going to come out ahead. Absolutely dominant in the end from Turkey. I think the rogue game, as you said, particularly was well navigated. Although the opening hand to get the job done was dealt to him. But the double tempo auctioneer was a very smart play. And then the Pirate Warrior game, when you needed a perfect Pirate Warrior game, Blizzard provided.
Yeah, so that's going to be match 3 done for today. And don't go anywhere though, guys, because we've still got matches 4 and 5 coming up after this.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.